What's going on, guys? This is Cameron Selby here with Emery Cuzzy. Today we're going to go over the Week 16 main slate. It's an 11-gamer with a lot of basically similar totals. Starting off, we get just going through the top five real quick. Browns-Bengals is the highest total, but I bet you that'll drop because DTR is now the starter over Jameis Winston. You got the Lions and the Bears at 47. You got the Cardinals and the Panthers at 47. You got the Patriots and Bills at 47. And then you got a lot of 46s. Rams and Jets at 46. Eagles Commanders at 46. And then a couple of contrarian games like Vikings Seahawks, which have playoff implications. Reasonable if the weather permits itself.
Yeah. Guys, just so everybody knows when we get into this, nothing is comfortable. We're going to be playing quarterbacks that are going to be very cheap, and we're going to love it because it's just, I'll bring it up right now. The best play on the slate. You ready for it? It's Josh Allen.
Yep.
By himself.
Himself.
Yeah, because there is nobody you're comfortable stacking. The best play from last week stacked with him would have been Ty Johnson.
Yeah.
That is just absolutely, no one knew that. No one had that
Amari
right.
Cooper was the most popular bill. And
Zero.
In a game where they dropped 48 on the zero targets. That's
I don't
basically Khalil Shakir is the most consistent, but for what it's worth, Dalton Kincaid had 7 targets, but that's probably going to go down to 2 this week. Basically, nobody I'm comfortable stacking, but I love Josh Allen because he averages 50 over the last 2. So just play him if you're going to play him and just move on. But we wanted to bring him up because he's in the player pool by himself.
Literally, like this.
Yep,
just like this. Because it's New England. He's going to have 3 rushing touchdowns. Y'all know how it works. But going back to quarterback now, our first play is going to be mid-tier play. It's going to be Kyler.
Fit times the charm, right? Like this is basically he's projecting as the highest owned guy again.
Yeah.
And then last week we avoided him because we were tired of getting burned by him. And lo and behold, we were right because he didn't score any touchdowns because Arizona is so annoying to – we talk about Josh Allen and the Buffalo. They score points. We just don't know how they're scoring points.
Right.
Arizona just doesn't want to score points, and they just don't want to involve their best players when it matters most. So basically, Kyler, because they're against the Panthers and it's a good, matchup.
Right.
He's reasonably priced. And on top of that, because Trey McBride just doesn't get receiving touchdowns, he's basically one of the best tight ends in football, but his price isn't going up to wide receiver 1 levels because he's not scoring touchdowns, so his upside's capped. Marvin Harrison Jr., 5,400 season low once again, but they're just not throwing him the ball. But it is worth noting with James Conner, dead last by far, a wide margin against running backs is the Carolina Panthers, coming off a 2-touchdown, 138-yard performance, but also Trey Benson injured.
Mm-hmm.
And then Amari DiMercado is now on IR. So it's basically a one-man show with him, and I forgot who they even picked up as a relief guy. Pulling it up right now, it is DJ Dallas. That's who it is. So Trey Benson, uncertainty. DJ Dallas played 12 snaps his second game where he played at least 1 snap of the season. So basically, James Conner, 7,100, great play. Sure.
I think that this is a cheap enough stack that you're capable of playing it because you're, just 6,100 for Kyler. And it's not like there's bad plays on the Carolina side. There's bringbacks. You could pay Adam Thielen. You could pay Xavier Legette's out for the remainder of the season or for a while.
So he's out for a while, yes.
Yeah, and then Chuba Hubbard, you go right back to the well. There are bringbacks. You have a cheap stack. It makes sense. It's just, can you get them to score freaking points?
Yeah.
Are they going to throw the ball to the right players? Shoot, Kyler it's not even just, is he going to throw the ball to the right players? He had 30 attempts last week. 38, 45, 37.
It was all spread out.
You ready for this? 6 targets. 8 targets, 12 targets, 6 targets. Cool. No touchdowns. 1 touchdown, sorry. He had 1 touchdown. No touchdowns from the other guy. It's just, it's uncomfortable, to say the least.
Yeah.
But you know where the ball's going. Or the ball's going to Trey McBride at least.
You're going to Trey McBride, and because he's 6,200 and he has upside of 28 without touchdowns, that's why he's in the pool. And both him and Marvin Harrison both showing less than 8% ownership, despite Kyler being the highest owned quarterback.
Right.
It's great leverage, especially if you're doing a bringback, which nobody on the Carolina side is showing ownership as well. James Conner is the highest skill player on this entire game in a juicy environment. He's only at 11% owned against the best running matchup in football. That he'd be a 5-box running back clearly if they were at home.
Yeah. So let's go to the next team. That is our highest spend up is 6,100 for quarterback, unless you're going Josh Allen by himself.
Yeah.
And then Aaron Rodgers. I'm not gonna really. I mean, Brees scored on some BS, but whatever. We'll put him in there. And then
Braylon Allen also got hurt as well.
Yeah.
So him being a back injury, he might be shut down for the remainder of the year or what have you going forward. So Isaiah Davis actually had 41% of the snaps. Brees Hall had 48 in his return from 1 game absence, but he just is not right, not playing well, whatever you want to call it. But Aaron Rodgers is actually playing well now that they're finally out of contention.
Of course.
Back-to-back games where he's played very, very well from a fantasy perspective. Devontae Adams had 0 catches at halftime, ends with 9 for 198 and 2 touchdowns.
It was insanity.
On 12 targets. Basically 3 straight games getting 11 or 12 targets. Has a 100-yard upside. He scored in every game, 4 touchdowns, 3 games. He basically is the candidate to win you your best ball, if that means anything. He had 46 last game, obviously, and that was with I think Garrett Wilson still hit the 10 target threshold again.
Points or something,
or he only had 6 targets actually,
Yeah.
but he scored the touchdown early. But 3 straight games where at least he's got usage to where, and their prices didn't go up at all.
Right.
Like Devontae after a banger, his best game of the year by far, goes up $200. Garrett
Cool.
Wilson goes up $100, and it's once again a great matchup against the Rams, who we saw 55 points dropped by. I know it's Josh Allen. That's why we picked only Josh Allen. But it's a good matchup, and I know Brock Purdy didn't take advantage on Thursday night this past week, but it's still a good matchup nonetheless. And really, the only options I'm stacking if I'm going Aaron Rodgers are just best 2 receivers, or if you wanted to throw in a sprinkle of a Tyler Conklin who might be back, sure. And then Jeremy Ruckert, for what it's worth, we mentioned him as a last second because Tyler Conklin was ruled out last week. He played 67% of the snaps. I think he only had 1 catch on 1 target, but he's still under 3,000, so opens up a lot of value. He's 2,600. Conklin's at 28 still, which is very nice. And then Alan Lazard went down in price. He didn't really have anything, but back-to-back games was 78 and 79% of the snaps. So $4,000 if you want a last low-owned guy. He had 4 targets.
Win sprints, but whatever.
Yeah, I care about targets, not what you did last week.
Right,
I don't
for
do
sure.
what you do for me lightly when I build lines, and a lot of times that works out. So wanted to mention them. And then bring back wise, obviously Puka Nacua is playing like a top 3 receiver in football right now. Cooper Kupp wants to come off a goose egg himself and have a big game. And then Kyron Williams, as safe as it comes. And the Jets just allowed nearly 300 yards and 2 touchdowns to Mac Jones last week.
Yeah.
So a lot of options on the backside as well.
Right. And then let's go to the next one. Everybody's favorite player right now. Everybody wants to talk about him. Caleb Williams.
Yes.
It's going up against Detroit. Detroit has not been good in the secondary, and their pass rush has kind of gone down because Aiden's been out. So
they are out of bodies, essentially. They lost 3 different starters for the year this past week. 2 corners, and then their best defensive lineman on top of Aiden being out, and then both of the linebackers being out. They're just out of bodies. There's no more except for Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph, who are still there and kicking. But obviously Chicago had a very poor game against Minnesota this past Monday night against the Vikings. But Detroit is just out of bodies. They're undermanned, and we're playing off of matchups.
Yeah.
And Detroit right now, everybody wants to play Detroit if you love passing stats. And Caleb Williams, if you want to click on his game log, the last time he played Detroit, played very well on Thanksgiving. Very rocky start. But then that was the controversial game. Obviously, they botched the end after a sack, don't call a timeout, lose the game, and then coach doesn't even get on the plane with them going home before he gets fired. But he had 250 yards, 3 touchdowns, had 40 yards on the ground, 26 points. He was the optimal quarterback that slate for the 3-gamer. Played really well, and then prior to that, Minnesota, the reason we played him last night was because he had a 30-point game. If he's trailing because he's a touchdown dog, I mean, he just needs the passing volume. So
31,
and everything's
39,
cheap.
47.
5,500 for a quarterback that probably nobody's going to play, or not enough will play, because
Right.
he just has not played well this year. All of the options are below $6,000 to stack with. It's really easy to get to organically a Chicago play with a bring back
Right.
of somebody like Jahmyr Gibbs, who by far best matchup. And on top of that, David Montgomery now out for the year with an injury.
It's going to be hard to get away from him.
He is going to be probably the most popular skill player on the slate. And if you wanted to throw in Amon-Ra as a contrarian play to that, sure. But it is worth mentioning Chicago is much better against the pass than they are the run.
Yeah. But that's another thing that, just kind of wanted to bring up. I'm a big proponent in fading chalky running backs. And I don't know what to do with Jahmyr Gibbs this week, man. He's going to be 80%, I feel like.
Right now, he's showing us 33%. I bet you'll be over 40.
Yeah, there's no way.
When it comes down to it, especially in cash games.
Oh, man. It scares me.
How do you get away from it? I know he didn't have the most productive fantasy game this past time against the Chicago Bears, but he had 9 carries for 87 yards. Pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, had some pass catching work, 2 for 17. But David Montgomery had 124 all-purpose yards and 24 opportunities. So combined together, they went north of 200 yards together, and just one of those few games of the entire season that neither scored. So at the end of the day, great spot for him, and he is RB1 to me, and everybody else sees that too.
I know. It's just I like fade and chalk because that's how you win tournaments.
Right.
Kirk Cousins. Just kidding.
Not anymore.
Jameis Winston.
Not
just
anymore.
Kidding. We'll start with Mac Jones.
Yeah. No, we're getting real pukey this week.
Oh,
guys.
it's crazy.
And there's more after him. But Mac Jones, obviously having a great game against the Jets, who just kind of have given up on the season defensively. But it started with Brian Thomas,
Son of a gun,
went absolutely bananas against the Jets, going for 2 touchdowns and
killed my
35
hopes.
fantasy points. A lot of people benched him. I saw a stat where over 50. No. What's up?
A lot of people benched him? Really?
Like, there was a lot of people.
Oh, that hurts.
I think ESPN leagues, over 55% of people that owned him did not start him, including one of my buddies who ended up missing out on his first round matchup. He did not start him as well. Damn. But yeah, 10 on 14 targets, 105, 2 touchdowns, 3 straight games with at least 16 points. His price just hasn't gone up enough, and with Evan Ingram now being out, it's him and I guess Brenton Strange are the dogs now, and obviously the Raiders, really solid matchup. Inside environment. It is cross country. I actually don't know who's
favored in
that game, but neither team wants to win it. I can tell you that much.
Currently,
it's a pick 'em. Perfect.
Even, yeah. 39.5 total.
Yeah, basically, neither team wants to win this game. Neither team even wants to tie.
Yeah.
Based on where they're at, they're all basically tied for the bottom 3 in the division. Jacksonville actually won a couple weeks ago against the Titans, which kind of vaulted them up. But, yeah, Brian Thomas averaging 12 targets a game over the last 3. Great option. And then Brenton Strange, obviously, he went up a ton because of his great play. But guess what? Evan Ingram's out for the year. 11 catches on 12 targets. Sign me up. He's the cheap tight end, and I bet you if I had to look at ownership right now, he's rivaling being the highest owned tight end right now at 7.2%. I bet you that'll rise to over 10 when it's all said and done.
Yeah, probably. I mean,
highest value at least is what he's showing as tight end.
$3,500 for 12 targets. I mean, I just don't know you can beat it. I put Parker Washington, but truly, if you're going to play Mac Jones, this is what you're doing, and you're bringing it back with, I don't even know. Jacoby Myers is probably my most comfortable, but at the same time, he didn't have a catch till that second half, and Brock Bowers didn't have a catch in the second half. Yeah. So, Amir Abdullah?
Sure.
Okay.
It is worth noting, though, Parker Washington did play 86% of the snaps this past week. Nobody else came close to that. But Devin Duvernay, who I believe is $3,100, had 46% of the snaps once again. And I believe, let me pull up that game log. Obviously, it was a lot of fireworks towards the end with the Jets and the Jags that nobody watched, essentially. But Devin Duvernay, 3 catches for 42 yards on 4 targets. Him being $3,100. Very reasonable. Sure. Parker Washington, we just mentioned him, had 6 targets, 3 for 54. He recently had a 100-yard game as well.
Gotcha. And then we're going to go back to quarterbacks, and we're going to go farther down the list. Aiden O'Connell, we're hoping he plays because Desmond Ridder is awful.
Considering he came down to a game-time decision, I would expect him to be back this week with the full week. But it is worth mentioning, Sincere McCormick
Yeah.
left with an ankle injury. He's already ruled as doubtful.
Yeah,
so
he's out.
basically,
There's no
we're
way.
back to, and Zamir's already out for the year. So Alex Madison, I actually am interested because the snap counts weren't available this morning. But when Sincere went out, Amir Abdullah outsnapped Alexander Madison. He had 46% of the snaps.
Okay.
Alex Madison had 33%. So basically, Madison's probably going to vulture goal line work, but Amir Abdullah probably has the pass catching upside. 4,600, sure. Not going to be much cheap options down low for running back this week.
Yeah, I think that it's reasonable. Jacoby Myers goes in there.
Wants a good matchup.
Tight end, we're going to go get the most expensive tight end at 6,500, who I'm not even confident in playing right now, so that's awesome.
I mean, I'm more confident, obviously, if Aiden is playing, because when Aiden was playing,
yes, true.
he had his 10-catch games and stuff like that. But with Desmond Ridder, apparently they just don't throw him the ball at all in the second half. It costs us our matchups, and it's very sad.
And Desmond doesn't even look the right way on the reads, so not the point. But yeah, so
regardless, it's very easy, self-explanatory. The Raiders side, it's just uncomfortable. But this entire game, nobody I don't think is going to be on. Other than Jacoby Myers, there's not a single player above 8% owned in this game, and both quarterbacks are less than 1% owned, which I bet you that'll probably jump up to maybe 2 or 3%. But still, sentiment remains that both are going to project not great,
right.
But they're both in good spots, and this could be very well a game similar to last week with Jacksonville, where two bad teams just shoot out and try not to win the game and end up producing a lot of optimal fantasy goodness. So a lot of tournament options on this game for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And then another one. I don't even know.
He's 45.
4,500.
This is breaking news.
Let me add before we do that. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, if he does start, I expect him to start.
Yeah, he was already confirmed as a starter.
Okay. He's
in the pool, but he just is very bad, and it's very sad for all the Cleveland guys, especially Jared Jeudy, who's coming off the best stretch of his career. David Njoku might be back, but all these guys take a dip when Jameis Winston's out. Jameis, you shouldn't have turned the ball over 14 times in 5 games. I mean, fantasy-wise, we love you. We love the interviews. We love the sound bites and memes and stuff like that.
Right.
But you did not lock down this job, and you very well could have. You had the opportunity to do so, and you did not take advantage. Dorian Thompson-Robinson won't either, but unfortunately, he's not going to be the one throwing it 50 times like Jameis we know and love that he can do. He's in the pool, but we probably, with all these options down low, every other person I'm more confident in, the ETR would be 4th out of these 4 guys.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Now, Michael Penix, just mentioned, right before we recorded this episode, was announced as a starter. So him being 4,500 against a team at home that just allowed 5 passing touchdowns,
sure,
show me the money.
Yeah.
I don't know actually how owned he'll be. Maybe people will believe in the hype and he might, be
over-owned almost.
Yeah, I have no idea. But it's a good matchup once again. Very self-explanatory who's getting the ball. I don't even know why you clicked on Kyle Pitts, just because he's quit on his potential and all that stuff.
He had an okay game.
4 for 28.
Yeah.
I'm not clicking on his name for
4,000.
4,000. But guess what? Maybe Michael Penix is the guy that unlocks him.
He's the Kyle Pitts whisperer.
But really, this comes down to Michael Penix. If you believe in him this week in a cheap play, Bijan Robinson getting all the touches and has pass catching work, I'd probably just put him in as default. And then Drake London, who has been by far the safest option for Atlanta. At least he hasn't had as much, or Darnell Mooney has rivaled with him with the boom games. But the floor games, I don't think Darnell Mooney had a catch last night against the Las Vegas Raiders. And then
I don't think so.
Yeah, 1 target, 0 catches. He was a very chalky guy in the mid-5s. Raymond McLeod had a ton of targets coming into the game. He caught the first pass of the game, then didn't catch another pass. Drake London caught the touchdown.
Yeah.
And also he's had games recently of 14 and 16 targets. So at the end of the day, they had to make this move because Kirk Cousins, you can't throw 1 touchdown and 9 interceptions in a 5-game sample size.
It's been terrible.
You just can't do that.
Playing the Raiders, they should have, we were thinking that was going to be the game where he got back to,
Fun stat last night. Again, it was one of the worst games of the season to watch, honestly, but they had 24 first down and 10s, the Atlanta Falcons did. They ran the ball 23 times.
Mm-hmm.
The one time they threw it was a Kirk Cousins interception. So obviously they, as soon as I heard word that Raheem Morris would not name a starter today, I had a gut feeling that they were going to move on. But we got that news before we even recorded, which is beautiful
Yeah.
because Michael Penix, 4,500,
Free.
he's free.
Yeah.
And so, all these guys in play. Any of these quarterbacks that we just mentioned, they're ugly, but they're going to all be low owned, and you need 15 points out of any of them.
Right.
All of them, great matchups. The Raiders, bad against passing. Jacksonville, bad against passing. Obviously, we talked about Caleb Williams, ugly, inconsistent play, but against the best situation right now. And then Michael Penix, like I said, home favorite against the Giants, who just allowed 5 passing touchdowns. All of them great spots, all of them low owned. Just pick one, and it's puked this week. That's why we had to name so many.
Yeah, let's go ahead and start looking at some running backs, though, because there are some running backs that we have to talk about that we hadn't already. Bijan, of course, was talked about. James Conner. Breece Hall. I need let me go grab
because there's some juicy options up top.
It's like they're definitely not everybody I want here. Buffalo, Jacksonville, Raiders. All right, here we go. As I was saying, Saquon is the most expensive guy on the slate at 8,300. Sure, he's in play. Playing Washington. What was in the first game? Do you know what he scored?
You know what he scored.
Oh yeah, 40.
That was the game we faded him, and he went for 37.
Or 37. Okay.
2 breakaway touchdowns at the end to close it, and then obviously the 49-point game was the following week.
Yeah.
But Washington, not the best matchup, but he did his thing against them. He's had back-to-back games where he's not scored, so due for some touchdown positive regression. 8,300. I think they're favored by 3.5, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
3.
3.
So very close game. I think they can lock up the division with a win. So if they haven't already, I think they might have already. Yeah, they did. So yeah, great spot for him. $4.5 running back. Next up, we have Chase Brown at 77. His price keeps going up, but it don't matter because he's just on the field all the time. Gets all the pass catching work, scoring touchdowns as well. 5 touchdowns in 5 games. Look at the target upside, catch upside. 19 points in every game as a starter so far since Zach Moss went down. So as safe as they come, maybe he's priced up to the point where you don't need to just plug him in and all, because for the record, Cleveland, not a great matchup against running backs. They're top 5 in fantasy points per game allowed to running backs. So not a great spot. 7,700 is getting up there in price, but he's got 25 touch upside every single week now going forward.
Yeah, Chase Brown's been pretty good.
$5 running back.
And then next guy, of course, Jahmyr Gibbs, who we've already kind of talked about, but he is going to be possibly the most chalky running back at the top because he is going to be the starter against Chicago, 28th ranked. I don't know how many. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
There's a lot of
what
good
I
running
want to
backs
do.
in good spots. So
that's the problem that I'm having is do I want to play the chalk when I have other guys and I'm like, those guys could be good too.
Exactly. There's at least 6 running backs 6,800 and above that could legitimately have 25 plus point upside. So if Jahmyr is only going to have 25 points, I think you can get off him. But I'm probably, if we do our 5 lineup builds, I probably want to pencil him in for 3 out of 5. So be overweight to him being the chalkiest, but just slightly overweight, and then be able to afford the others as well. Because Devon Achane, one game that we fade him, it actually worked out.
Right.
They're at home against San Fran. Back-to-back weeks where San Fran allowed 100 all-purpose yards to running backs. He's at home. Very inefficient, but he gets 7 targets every week. Jalen Waddle got rolled up on and looked pretty bad, so he might be out. And last time one of those guys was out, he was getting 11 targets a game. He's their wide receiver too when that happens. He just hasn't had the ceiling in recent weeks. He was just kind of similar to Chase Brown, as just get you 20 every week. But since early in the season when he had the 30-point games, he hasn't really hit that mark. But his price went down over this week, and he's in play. I think it'll be interesting with manipulating the ownership where everybody lands at the end of the day. But right now he's shown as the 4th most popular.
Gotcha. And then Kyron Williams is in play.
Kyron Williams in play. He's really good at football.
James Conner's in play.
James Conner is in play. We talked about him. James Cook is in play. He just keeps on scoring and doing well. Jonathan Taylor, if you don't drop the ball at the 1, maybe you're in play too. Chuba Hubbard, go back to the well against Arizona. He's probably my favorite bring back if you do a Kyler build.
Right.
Obviously a very negative game script this past week against Dallas, but he's got 20 touch upside at home. He just isn't favored. So very, very safe option. And I bet you because of that, right now he's not even showing as a top 10 owned running back right now. So very good leverage point right there.
Nice. And then looking at some of the other ones that are on here, we didn't talk about it. He's not on here, but I'm going to add him. It's Brian Robinson, just because because I do believe that
Eckler's out.
Eckler's still
He's
out.
for the
So he is
Or
a
at
starter.
least
He's
fantasy
still an option. Other guy, Aaron Jones at 6,400. He's been really good, and he's scoring touchdowns, and you can't get away if he's going to get the floor he's had. So
Yeah, I came into the year, we were underweight to him in best ball, but it was a lot to do with I didn't think season long wise he would have a great consistency. But
Right.
he's been honestly very, very consistent as a high end RB2 this year, and a lot of times has had RB1 upside. Obviously, you saw the 100-yard game against the Bears. He's had a couple of multi touchdown game as well. Couple of duds sprinkled in there, but for the most part, he's been very serviceable. If you did buy him this year, only showing 10% owned. That one's a big game. I think Minnesota right now is favored. Yeah, great spot.
And then the next guy we're going to look at is, the backfield of Seattle.
Yeah.
If Kenneth Walker plays, he's an option. If he doesn't play, you go down to Zach Charbonnet at 6,000.
He didn't move at all, but
yeah.
Again, 90% of the snaps, basically every single time. He gets all the important touches when Kenneth Walker is not in. So very, very reasonable mid-price play. Ramondre, if you can stomach thinking that the Patriots can stay within 3 touchdowns, Buffalo was second worst against running backs this year. Decent spot. Last week he was also in a good spot. We ended up not playing him because we were nervous about the game staying close, and that ended up being a good call because he did not perform well. But yeah, it gets really gross, but the true value in the 5K range comes in the name of Jerome Ford at 5,600. Obviously, Nick Chubb unfortunately broke his foot and is now out for the year. And he comes right in, hits 100 yards on 9 touches, and scores their only touchdown of the game against the Chiefs, who that was a bottom 3 matchup against running backs.
Right.
If you wanted to scroll up to the start of the season when Nick Chubb was still on IR and not coming back, 3 of the 4 games he had double-digit points, 2 games at least over 15. Basically, with DTR, maybe all the pass volume is just not there, and a lot more goes to Jerome Ford. He basically got all the snaps once Nick Chubb went down. I'm bringing up the snap share right now, but he went 58%, 36 snaps to Pierre Strong's 6. I would expect Deontay Foreman to be activated again because they usually like playing him as the dirty work running back when Nick Chubb is not playing. But I think he's a very solid option if you wanted to do that, and then if you wanted the Cincinnati side, because they've been playing lights out offensively as well.
All right, so Jerome Ford, and then there's some pump plays, of course. We got to talk about Tyron Tracy because he has had some really big games this year. He's playing Atlanta. Atlanta has been lackluster at best, and so he is an option. He could go for this 5,500 seems reasonable for a guy that has
his price
upside.
went way down, and I mean, he just only negative game scripts are the only kind of detriment since he kind of took over for Devin Singletary. He still had 68% of the snaps last week. They were just trailing the entire game, and on top of that, Baltimore were really good against the run. But in the last 3 games, 73%, 83%, and 68%. Yeah, he really good value to me. Not a great matchup, but at the same time, we just saw Amir Abdullah have a receiving touchdown since Stephen McCormick was playing well before his injury. So if you think this game is somewhat close, ugly game, you wanted to bring back option, he's in play.
For sure. And then there's one other guy we want to get to. It's Tyjae Spears. He's 4,900. He had 2 touchdowns this last week. The first time we did not mention him as a cheap play because he hadn't done anything with being a cheap play for like 4 weeks straight. And then I believe, he had 2 touchdowns on only 4 attempts, but he had 6 receptions on 7 targets, 87 yards in that touchdown.
The thing that was interesting to me was Tony Pollard actually was a true game time decision this past week because he missed the first 2 weeks in practice, or first 2 days of practice. He ended up playing, but Tyjae Spears, for the first time I think this season, he outsnapped him. He was actually in for 56% of the snaps compared to Tony Pollard's 44%. his price went up obviously because of these 2 touchdowns. I need more volume to be able to invest a ton in him.
Right.
But he's worth a sprinkle because nobody's going to play him. Similar to what we've said about Justice Hill in the past, where he's a backup, but even in a good spot, if you project a certain kind of game script, he can go off. I said that in the first look of Maine last week. I'll say the same thing about Tajay Spears this week. If you think Tony Pollard is still going to be banged up and just going to have a limited workload, or Tennessee's going to be playing from behind, he is a PPR kind of back. So,
Right.
Very much in play. And then also, last guy I wanted to mention was just Amir Abdullah or Alex Madison. Since we did the prep for this show, obviously, since they're now ruled doubtful, so both of them below 5,000 as well. Pick one. We probably side with Amir Abdullah because we did a couple weeks ago. He ended up paying off at his cheap salary.
Fair enough. All right, let's start building some lines.
Let's do it.
I don't know which puke you want to start with, but I'm going to start with Josh Allen.
Yeah.
No puke.
Let's do single Superman, whatever you want to call this style of build.
He is.
And then I like always kind of clicking my defense first. A couple of options stood out to me, at least down low. Let's see, Chicago being 22, we keep on picking them when they're talking and it ends up not working out, but maybe Detroit kind of falls behind. I actually think that them still being a 7-point favorite is kind of wide to me. Let's see, the 49ers being 2,800 is pretty reasonable with them starting to get back. Obviously, Dre Greenlaw returned, and so did Nick Bosa this past week, and they didn't allow a touchdown. So I think, though, are they favored in this game, actually? They are, let's see. It's true pick 'em. But I'd probably, if I'm picking this game outright, I think I'm picking San Francisco to win this game. So them being 2,800, reasonable. Do you have a favorite down low that when you're looking at it?
One you hadn't said anything about was the Giants. They're playing a rookie quarterback who has not played a game yet at 2,400. I actually side with them over Chicago in that situation because I think that Detroit has just been so good. So that would actually be my lean. If not, I'm fine with going up to 2,800 San Francisco.
And we mentioned so many pukes. One that just came to mind that I forgot to mention. Will Levis got benched. So Mason Rudolph time. Tennessee-wise, everybody's cheap. So if you want that against Indy, who we've targeted defensively this entire season, he's in play as well, but he's probably fifth out of the 5 down low.
Right. How about we start with the 49ers and go down if we have to?
Sure.
Okay. Running back wise, there's a lot of good ones. So we're going to have to find value and, get the guys we want.
I want to put Jahmyr Gibbs in this line.
Okay. We're going to get away from him. We are. It's going to happen.
Okay.
Do you want to bring back?
Well, they're all cheap.
That's why I was wondering.
Do you side with DJ Moore still or Keenan or?
Well, DJ, 8 for 8, 46 yards, had some rushing opportunities. I know Keenan had the touchdown late in the game. He also dropped 2 passes that were right in his hands.
13 targets, though.
13 targets and a touchdown, 20 points. He's had
3 of the last 4.
I think it's got to be Keenan for those numbers.
Okay.
And that saves us $600.
That's fine.
And then other running back that you have to have.
Yeah, we'll see if we can double spin up. I think I would side with James Conner. Interesting.
I was gonna say Chuba in the same game.
Really?
Yeah, because I was
see
gonna.
If we can play both.
Well, I was gonna play Chuba with Trey McBride.
Okay. Well, we needed some salary savings, so I was gonna put in Britton Strange
Fair
as
enough.
our tight end. And bring back wise, I think organically, Jacoby Myers makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, that's fair. Grab him at 57.
I think it's 58.
Oh, that's why. Okay, and then 2 spots, 46.50 left. Cheap wide receiver that you like, or cheap running back Amir Abdullah at 5,600. That would leave you 47. So, I mean, we could stack, I guess.
Yeah, the receiver position's kind of tough. I actually really liked, Cedric Tillman being dropped to 49 coming in, but then now it's DTR.
Yeah, I was going to say
way less interested in that.
Comfortable.
Shoot. Yeah, receivers kind of gross between the 4,000 and 5,000 range. I don't know. Maybe this is the line we get off of Jahmyr Gibbs.
Okay, let's try it.
Then let's put in Chuba, your guy that you were suggesting, and then that's an organic bring back of the James Conner play. Both of them less than 12% owned right now.
Okay.
That makes me feel a little better, right?
We'll see. I mean, like I said, Amir Abdullah is an option. That would leave you 5,400, which is Marvin Harrison. I already have an Arizona player. Just kidding. I don't want to do this.
He's right now the highest value, and I just don't want any part of it. Oh, that is one guy I wanted to point out to you.
Go ahead.
His price, DK Metcalf.
I saw that now.
5,500.
Yeah, that's pretty low. Where's JSN?
6,000.
Okay.
And another quarterback.
32nd.
Puke quarterback. Geno Smith went down with an injury, didn't return to the game. Sam Howell, who at one point in the season last year was leading the league in passing.
Yeah.
He's got 2 cheap receivers, and I think his price is already baked up because of the injury happened before prices got released. But again, another option. There's 6 down there, and they're all going to be low owned and stuff like that. So 5,500 against the dead last, against receiver, good matchup, good game environment.
Yeah. Okay. Well, sitting here at 5,000 though, where do you want to go?
I don't know.
Okay.
That's my answer.
I can go down at
let's go down to defense.
Okay. Well, that's way down there. Didn't mean to do that. I'm gonna go here. See what we can do with that.
All right. Let's do.
Doesn't.
What is the price of a certain guy? 4,800. How do you feel about a TJ Hawkinson and DK build?
I like it. I'm fine with that. That's fun.
Low owned. Maybe finally with Sam Howell pushing the ball down the field, they'll have some upside. Double tight end build.
Very different. It's a Josh Allen Superman build,
Mm-hmm.
Got to do something like that.
Yeah. We won't have to go that cheap. I think the value is really bad at receiver this week on the main slate. So all these cheap quarterbacks, you're not going to even have to go down that low.
Right.
Because there's a lot of options that are stackable in the 5K range and 6K range. So, but yeah, what do you think?
Hey, it's cool. Let's try it with the cheap guy. Let's get off of this hero Superman build. Which one of these guys? Yeah.
What is my favorite puke?
Oh, that's tough. I think my
favorite might be Caleb Williams.
Okay. 55.
Let's do Caleb and then DJ and Keenan.
Okay.
Because every time we want to double, that's the answer. And then bring back with Jameer.
It's always the answer, Cam.
It is. Well, we've tried to force low-owned Ramadunze as plays, and he has the most unrealized air yards by far in the NFL this year. So he is going to be a very fun buy low next year best ball candidate because I don't expect Keenan Allen to return. But yeah, for now, we're going to ride with those two. And then next up, I need to know, are we going expensive tight end or are we going cheap tight end?
Expensive tight end. Okay. We're gonna go with the big guns on this one.
Okay. Which do you prefer up top? Oh, right. You already clicked his name. That makes it easy. All right. So put in Chuba.
Okay. Some generic.
51.
Golly, twice in a row.
All right. Back to the well. No.
I mean, that's exactly where we'd be. We're 100 short. What is a cheap? We could play double tight end again. Just saying.
We could. Put in
just
Amir Abdullah at 46.
Not against that. Not one bit. 5,600 DK. Adam Thielen. Jalen Waddle is probably going to miss.
Yeah. I thought about DK as probably my favorite mid-price guy because I think that his ownership might be pretty low. Let me actually look at
5,500 is just so cheap.
He's about 8.5% owned. JSN at less than 8% at 6,000. He went down in price for no reason. Is very intriguing to me as well. But also, I also wanted to mention Jameson Williams is cheap too.
Mm-hmm.
So him being 5,500, I believe, as the one option, and then we can once again try to get off of Jameer in this spot. Jameson right now is showing less than 6% ownership.
Okay. Let's try that real quick, just for shits and giggles.
Okay.
Jameson, get off Jameer.
And then that's 76. If you went down defense, You can get enough for
Chase Brown.
Chase Brown. If you went all the way down to Chicago, then that was enough for a Bijan, or a no, not enough for Saquon. Do you have a favorite up top other than I guess Jameer?
I don't hate Kyron, actually.
Okay.
I think Chase Brown is my favorite.
Chase Brown. Okay. We'll fit him in. And we got 300. I don't know if you preferred any of the defenses in between 28 and 24.
Not really.
Or if we need to go up anywhere else as the last guy in. Jameson.
Everything kind of fits naturally.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
let me I want to make an Aaron Rodgers build.
Okay.
Because I think it's an interesting spot. I'm going to go both receivers, right?
Okay.
And then, can you do this? Can you Puka? Can you Puka? So Puka is expensive.
You got to go all the way down if we're going to try.
Let's start here.
Okay. And then go Brendan Strange?
Yes. And Amir?
Let's see. Well, he's 35. Yeah, let's try Amir Abdullah.
Because that gives you some serious money, which I think makes it okay. 61. Okay. What about I think you go Chuba and yes. Chuba and Marvin? No, I'm gonna be short. Shit. $200 short.
I think we should try.
Well, let's go to Chicago.
I think we should try, or I was gonna suggest maybe just instead of Puka going down to Kyron since you like him.
I do like him, but I do also think Puka's the best play in that game, or on that team. But yeah, it gives me some money. Mm-hmm. I like money. Is there a guy that is spin up viable in the wide receiver spot?
No.
Didn't think so.
I agree with the Puka call. AJ Brown, we tried to play on the showdown, and it did not work out against Washington earlier this year.
Right.
Jamar Chase, it's not a great matchup, but he's been matchup proof for the most part. But it is worth noting he had one of his worst statistical games outside of scoring a touchdown this year in their first matchup against Cleveland. Let's see. 55.
It's Keenan.
Sure.
Which is the bring back.
That's fine.
So that one's fine if you want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
All right. One more before we get out of here. We're going to do a Michael Penix build.
Why not? 4,500. Come on. Be free.
And we're just going to put in the two most popular plays.
Bijan
and Mr. Drake London.
Understandable. And then for the Giants.
You don't even have to leave the position.
Oh, well. Okay. Who?
Malik Neighbors.
We're going to play Malik Neighbors.
Yeah. Go look at his game log. He's finally getting back to his target share. He had 14 targets last game. Finally scored a touchdown, broke that streak. He's had 37 targets in the last 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
And his price is a season low now. Or for lowest since week 1, because I think he was in the 5K range in the first week of the season. But yeah. I don't get why the Giants went way down in price this week, but yeah, he's dropped $1,000 over the last 3 weeks, and his volume hasn't gone down. He just didn't score in the New Orleans and Dallas game, but he finally scored this past week and had 14 targets, and yet still went down $300 in a top 5 matchup. So ideally, Drew Lock, I'd prefer him to play, but even if he didn't, that's not the guy that he scored all those points with this past week.
Right. Okay. Well, then I'm cool with that. Let's put him in. And okay.
All right.
So now I feel like we have some money we're going to be able to play with. So let's go with the 49ers. Tight end wise, Strange, or do you want to go up?
Let's do Strange.
Okay. 35. And then.
All right.
62. Is there a receiver that's cheap enough to get 2 of the good running backs?
Well, I was thinking maybe possibly. I have an idea of an Aaron Jones.
Okay. I like that. 64, right? Yeah.
And then a bring back of Mr. DK Metcalf.
Okay. 55.
I don't think that gets us to a second one.
67. Tough.
But if we went down in defense to maybe a Chicago.
Okay.
That would get us to 73, which is enough for Kyron. And it's also enough for James Conner, which I probably prefer James Conner as a standalone if I had to pick.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
That's might be the first time I've said that playing
Ever.
DFS, but
Ever.
I mean, it's by far the best matchup. We saw Rico Dowdle, who's not a great running back, go for 150 last week
Right.
against them.
No,
and
yeah.
on top of that, losing his 2 backup running backs, and they just refuse to throw the ball anywhere else. I think James Conner is the best play, and him being only 11% owned, I think is pretty good leverage right now.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable. So that's like 5 first builds with some puke. Hope y'all enjoyed that. Let me
A lot of vomit.
Yeah,
a lot of vomit.
let me stop sharing. We appreciate y'all hanging out with us and checking out our puke this week. It's Superman Josh Allen, or it's
All the way down.
whoever you want down there for under 5,500 basically.
Yeah.
So
every one of those quarterbacks we mentioned showing under 5% owned, and all good spots of their skill players being less than 10%. I'm sure stuff will change, but I don't want to play a chalky Kyler because he just keeps not panning out.
right.
And we did mention him because his skill players are cheap, but it's not because he's been playing great. And then Joe Burrow showing ownership, but not a great matchup. Really, all the guys we mentioned, I know they're sad and hard to invest in, but they're all in good spots.
Yeah.
Even Mason Rudolph, who obviously has been the butt of a lot of jokes, is in a good spot with reasonably priced guys. So even though he's probably 6th out of all the 6 puke quarterbacks that we talked about, he is still somebody I can't rule out scoring 15, 17 points.
Right. No, for sure. I mean, it's just one of those things this week. Like, you're gonna be uncomfortable, but at the same time, if you hit on the right stack, and the other problem is we're gonna see some new quarterbacks playing, so we don't know if they have a favorite guy in practice, who they're most comfortable with. DTR might be like, I'm gonna throw it to Elijah Moore all game, and I'll be like, okay, go ahead, bud. It's one of those things. So, you're not going to be comfortable this week, but that's how also the best weeks to play, because there's no real cash game plays other than Jahmyr Gibbs on this slate, in my opinion.
Yeah, right now, every single skill player is below 17% owned, except for Jahmyr Gibbs, who is double that.
Yeah.
So, really, we know it's Jahmyr Gibbs in the field. And, I mean, even all the running backs we mentioned, like, great spots that could all go for 30, and they're all showing less than 20% owned. So, it's really easy to get over the field on a lot of these guys this week.
Yep. So we appreciate y'all hanging out with us. A lot of stuff going on. We're to finish this year. I mean, we have all the bowl games, and if you're in our bowl pick'em contest, keep checking in and making sure that you have everything set, because you can change the confidence. And then we have playoffs coming up. We'll have 2 more live streams. We talked about this on all of our other shows, but 2 more live streams before the end of the year. We will not be live streaming week 18 because we are both going to be out, but it also is the best week not to live stream because you have people sitting and then you have to figure out who to play, and it's not as easy. We will send lines, of course, but it will not be as easy as other weeks. So just be looking out for all of our lines. Check out our Discord if you're not in there. We'll send our Prize Picks lines and all of our main lines. So.
Yeah, check out our Saturday both showdown and 2-gamer look that we did. It's a special this week. There's also going to be a Christmas one of those same 4 teams that we're going to be releasing probably next Tuesday. And then also Thursday night game, very impactful playoff implications between the Broncos and the Chargers. And then Sunday live stream, 9 o'clock.
Yes.
I want to see everybody there, ask questions. Second round of playoffs for both basketball and season long. We need any kind of questions that you got.
Absolutely. So we appreciate y'all, and we will see y'all next time.